which makes it somehow more mandatory than the other weeks. That's how words can be a little deceiving from time to time. They can make a story out of the fact that I missed minicamp, but it was really 2 OTA days. Also, before I get your reaction, Nick, I will add, Aaron Rodgers was pretty delightful in this interview.
Yeah.
I thought that he was like just fantastic and kind of lighthearted.
Yeah, those guys make everybody feel good.
Yeah, so this feels like the quote panel may come off more, I don't know, adversarial than...
No, that I disagree with.
Okay.
Because when, I don't know if it was, because PFT then poked at him and was like, oh yeah,
I know.
you'd never use one word to mean something else. And Rodgers all of a sudden sharpened up and said, you want to get into etymology? We can get into etymology. And then they laughed and moved on.
So good, though.
So listen, here's the thing. There's no such thing as more mandatory or less mandatory. It's one of those words. There's no max or min. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
It is mandatory. If you don't know what the definition of it is, I think we can show it to you. It means compulsory. you got obligatory.
Yeah, that's good.
And so it's not, no, it's just helpful because Aaron Rodgers is out here talking to us about, that words can be a little deceiving.
I like about the mandatory retirement.
Yeah, it's not deceiving or confusing at all, which is why there were a lot of OTAs, there were a lot of stuff, but somehow everyone on the Jets understood this particular weekend or couple days was the most important, which is why everyone was there except for Aaron and a player who's in a contract dispute with them because they traded for him without getting a contract done. And so, Coach, folks will say, and some of the Jets apologists, some of whom ostensibly are media members, will say, how is this going to, you really think this is going to impact the team? Yes. I do not think this person can lead a football team. I don't think someone that is just on the biggest sports podcast or second biggest sports podcast in the world, making sure everyone knows the rules simply don't apply to me, and I will bend understood definitions of what words mean in order to explain how I did nothing wrong is not going to be an effective leader. And I don't know if he's still an effective football player, but I know that person's not an effective leader, Coach.
Yeah, as football coaches, one of the things that we strive for is confusing our players. we really want to be as vague as possible with everybody. I mean, mandatory could not be mandatory, it could be voluntary. And that's what we strive to do, is make sure everybody is as possibly confused as they can be. And here's the thing with Aaron. It's another typical example of him deciding what's important. It doesn't matter what the team feels important. It's whether or not he feels it's important. And there is a difference between a mandatory minicamp and an OTA. Now, it could be formatted the same way, and it could be scheduled the same way. But the significant difference is everybody's going to be there. So your practices, your meetings, they're more meaningful because everybody is there working together, where during the OTA process, you will have quite a few guys that miss. But it's your one opportunity prior to training camp to have everybody together to cover whatever you want to cover and to make sure that people are on the same page going into training camp. And it's frustrating where over and over again, he's just going to decide what's important. And then if he doesn't think it's important, he's going to disregard it.
You know what I think was interesting about this whole thing? Outside of just missing the minicamp, we all thought, you know what, if the Jets handled this from a PR standpoint, everybody would be cool with it. You know what? Aaron was here for these 9 days, and he wanted these two days off. We got out ahead of it. He's taking them off. So be it. It wouldn't have been a story. Maybe it would be a little brush fire, easily tamped down. So now, looking forward, I think we have a few more bites at this narrative apple for just missing 2 days of camp. And Aaron thinks it's no big deal. But now we got it from this podcast, from Pardon My Take. It's going to come around again. Aaron is not going to let it go that he was wronged. Yeah. And I don't think Saleh is going to say, well, I wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong either. The unexcused absence wasn't wrong. And I still think this tiny little thing will still sit and fester.
I think.
Are you buying that?
Yeah, go ahead, Coach, and then I'll, yeah.
and from an organizational standpoint, if he just decides to skip it and decides it's not important, and you excuse him, what legitimacy do you have to keep anybody else from skipping it? You don't. And if they didn't think it was important, they wouldn't have made it an unexcused absence. And you get into this slippery slope of, once you do it for one guy, you've got to do it for every guy. And the idea that he couldn't have booked this trip further on, this mini camp this year was 2 days earlier than the one that they had last year. So if he had just booked it out from the one they had last year, he would have been fine. But he made this an issue.
Well, there's only, Tartania experts only available certain weeks of the year.
He must have a tight schedule.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing that is frustrating to me. Because I know there are folks out there that are like, oh, nothing he said there would have satisfied you, Nick. Because there are some folks out there that believe that I just decided I don't like this guy. And now, no matter what he says, I'm going to say what's wrong with it, as opposed to every time he talks, he gives me another reason not to like him. Which is, you are in a friendly, popular podcast, as you mentioned, in good spirits.
Yeah, fun.
It is as simple as, I knew you guys were going to ask me about it. Listen, I've been in this league almost 20 years. I believe I'm still one of the best players in this league. I talked to my coach. The organization knew what it was. I'm comfortable that missing those 2 days is not going to hurt the New York Jets, and I made a choice. Instead, you give your little finger wagging, actually, folks, let me teach you about what words mean. And let me explain how the media actually wronged me. It is just paramount of folks who call everyone else out about being victims, pretending he's the victim. He was victimized by Rich Cimini. He was victimized by Diana Rossini. He was victimized by his head coach, calling it unexcused, and victimized by Merriam-Webster for not having a better definition of mandatory. It's just, it is the same type of thing you get. Anyone that's raised a teenager, that when they are caught dead to rights screwing up, instead of being like, my bad. You know what I mean? I was late.
I can't get...
You're gonna blame me that my phone doesn't work on the train and the train's delayed.
Everybody knows I don't have cell service.
Right.
Okay, so talk about a word salad. They're calling out Aaron Rodgers for kind of saying all this type of stuff, and then look what this whole segment just was. They're still acting like this is the world's biggest deal. Like Aaron Rodgers was just arrested for I don't know, causing a severe car crash on a freeway and doing a hit and run. Oh, no, never mind. That was someone from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's acting like Aaron Rodgers has gotten in trouble, and arrested multiple times for aggravated assault or animal endangerment that led to, unfortunately, an animal being euthanized. Oh, wait, never mind. That was another Kansas City Chiefs player. I keep getting confused. I'm so sorry. They're acting like this is the biggest deal they've ever seen, ever. The fact that they're still talking about this, the fact that this is actually a story. Nobody on the Jets team cares anymore. There's not a single staff member or coach that matters. Maybe some of the front office people, but you know what? Those people don't actually know anything about football. They're just business people, okay? But the actual people that actually have football background, that actually understand football and how it operates, and any of the players, nobody cares about this. They do not care. Under Nick is acting like that they're like out to lunch or whatever, and they're eating or at their practice, and they're still just like, hey man, I can't believe you missed that mandatory mini camp. I can't believe you missed those 2 days, man. This is eating at me. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Even if they did care at the time, which I don't think they did, but even if they did, it's already over. It's over. The only thing that this does is very clear to me, is that if you already didn't like Aaron, you'll continue to not like him. And I'm sure there's a few people on that roster that don't like Aaron, right? That's just the way it goes, no matter what. There's people that don't like Patrick Mahomes, right? That's just, again, it's just a numbers game at that point. And so for those players, yeah, they'll be like, they'll give him a short leash in terms of like, every time he messes up, maybe he throws a bad throw, whatever it may be, they're like, yeah, Yeah, maybe you should show up to practice, right? It just gets a little bit, but the vast majority, nobody cares. The vast majority. People love Aaron Rodgers. The players love Aaron Rodgers. It's really that cut and dry. And I've said this before, but it's worth saying again because this happened now recently, specifically in baseball, ironically. I'm going to speak in very, very loose general terms, as I always do when I bring up politics. There is something that happened with the political candidate recently. I'm sure you're all aware, kind of, got very dramatic at times, but everything turned out to be okay from a health standpoint. And he said some phrases, he did some things, has a bandage on his ear and said things like, like fight and all that type of stuff. And because of that, you've now seen like other athletes, especially in baseball from different teams, kind of do this like kind of either chant or covering their ear, right? And kind of solidarity with him. Now, if you ask the media, they would say that everybody hates that guy, right? The guy who's running. That everybody hates him and it's just ridiculous and everything he does is a disaster. But the truth is that a massive percentage of the country love that guy. And to me, this is exactly what we're seeing with Aaron Rodgers. They think that all his views and the things that he says and does, it's so fundamentally diametrically opposed to Nick Wright and some of the other media members that they're just like, nobody likes this guy. Everything he does is wrong and they hate it. When in reality, a massive percentage of all the people love Aaron. And not only do they support Aaron, but they actually agree with not only his actions, but also his beliefs. It's that simple. It's really that simple. And it's something that they struggle to grasp. Me, I see everything from all different angles and sides, right? I see everything from the left and the right, up, down, wherever. I see everything from 360 degrees. It's both a gift and a curse, quite honestly, because it leaves me in the middle in a lot of things, which is good, which I think is actually a major benefit for creating content like this, because I can kind of look at it from all the different angles and not just one side. But because of that, you also make enemies with a lot of people, because every video you make, you either earn some fans or you earn some enemies, and then the next video you kind of take a different side, and because of that, the friends that you just made now become your enemies, and the enemies that you just made now become your friends. So it becomes very messy and sloppy, where if you just pick one side, which Nick often does, then you just have that loyal fan base, that loyal audience. They kind of keep it going. That's something that I learned very quickly when I first started creating content, when I'm like, oh, the 49ers look great. And then another week, I'm like, the 49ers did not look good. And it was like one video, everyone's like, you're amazing. Yeah, the 49ers are great. And then I make a video about the 49ers not looking too good. And people are like, you're a moron. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a clown. And I think this is all very reminiscent of that, quite honestly. I just think this whole Aaron Rodgers narrative, the media they do not like him. They do not like him. They disagree with his views. They think he's anti this, anti that, anti this, anti that. I don't care about Aaron's political views, whether I agree with them or disagree with them. They mean nothing to me. They just mean fundamentally nothing to me, especially because on a spectrum of political views that someone can have, his views at least at the core, whether you want to say they're anti-science or whatever, they're not hurtful. Right? They're not discriminatory. There's plenty of other popular views in politics or even in sports. Certain athletes, especially basketball players, they have genuinely detrimental, hurtful, disgusting views. And that causes real world harm. Aaron does not. So the fact that they have such this extra level of hatred towards Aaron, it feels weird to me, quite honestly. It really, really does. I just think it's crazy that they're talking about Aaron way more than any of the nonsense that happened with the Kansas City Chiefs players over the offseason. Like, they say that this is going to be detrimental for the New York Jets moving forward, but not what Rashee Rice did? Like, what? Like, are we serious? Like, what are we talking about here? So it just is absurd to me, honestly. It's just disingenuous from many viewpoints. I think when I say disingenuous, I don't think that Nick is being disingenuous. I think he truly believes this, but I think he's just letting his own emotions and his own views get to him when evaluating Aaron Rodgers, because he said that he said people are going to say that there's nothing Aaron can say because I don't like him, yada yada yada. And the truth is like he's acting like that's not the reality, but it is, right? It's one of those things like when you tell a joke and they're like, oh, 80% of all jokes are like all jokes have like 80% truth or whatever. That's what that was to me. Like he was saying how he actually feels, but he's acting like that's not actually how he feels. And it's true. And he even just said that Aaron keeps talking, and the more he talks, he's just giving me more reasons to not like him. Well, when you admit you don't like someone, then you're clearly going to give biased views on something. There's plenty of people that I don't like in general, right? In general, but especially even in the NFL and stuff like that. And I try to fight those biases. There's a few people that I allow myself to genuinely not like because I think they are fundamentally bad people and that they are doing actual real world harm. I don't think Aaron Rodgers falls into that category. So I think it's okay then to kind of put his political views or some of his other past actions to the side and just evaluate him as a football player and give honest takes surrounding it. And I just don't think that these days Aaron gets that via the media. And I don't know. It's just starting to get a little old because it just like, why are we still talking about this? We're still talking about the missing of the mandatory minicamp. Nobody cares. And I guarantee you, any Jets fan does not care. No one in the team cares. No one cares anymore except for apparently these guys. Apparently Mangini thinks it's like the biggest deal ever. Just doesn't make sense to me. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think that this is still just the biggest deal ever and that this is going to rock the New York Jets going into this season? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.